Hello and welcome from Madrid, where we look at how Spain is dealing with the clash between church and state. Well, that clash between church and state in Spain is heating up ahead of national elections here in March. Tensions began mounting in 2004, shortly after the election of Prime Minister José Luis Zapatero, when his Spanish Socialist Workers' Party promised to scrap the privileged position of the church, introduced fast-track divorce, and passed same-sex marriage legislation. And while Spain is historically a Catholic nation, it also has a long tradition of challenging the church's authority. Today, it's estimated that while 77% of Spaniards identify themselves as Catholic, only 24% actually practice their faith. On today's program, we look at the debate that's raging here in Madrid with one of the country's most respected authors and theologians. And don't forget, we take your questions and comments via phone and mobile text. The numbers are there on your screen. Joining me now from Madrid is Enrique Miret Magdalena, a well-known Spanish writer and theologian. He has authored more than 20 books, including Creer o no creer, or To Believe or Not Believe. We're very honored to have you with us, Senor Miret.
I think that in Spain, the situation is a new situation because the dirigents in politics are not clearly believers. A little quantity of them, because, for example, it is very known and very respectful, the ambassador of Spain in Rome. Is a very, very good Catholic, and a Catholic open, but a very Catholic.
Mm-hmm. So open-minded, but religious.
But this is a new situation, because in Spain, in general, the dirigents of the politics, the ministers, in general, is not clear if they are believers or not believers.
I have to ask you, sir, in Spain, how free are people to talk about religion? How open is the debate about religion and the problems it faces?
I think there is a freedom about religion, but the quantity of Spaniards that are religious is always diminished. Not only the young people, but also the other persons, because they are tired of the questions of the bishops and the preoccupations of the bishops. They are always thinking about some things that are very strange for the public in general.
Right. Do you feel that Spain is a country which has complete religious freedom?
I think that in Spain the freedom is real, but the bishops always are criticizing this liberty and this freedom, and they go in a line against many modern things that are things that one may discuss, but it's not so important for having these questions in our legislation.
Right.
For example, the divorce and the abortion. But it is very curious that before this ministry, this socialist ministry, there was a ministry of right, and they have said, the ex-president of this minister had said that she is not going to change if they preside another time Spain.
Let me ask you, I mean, God has blessed you with a long life. Congratulations on turning 94 just a few days ago. You do yoga, you do Zen. Do you consider yourself a religious man? Are you a religious man? Do you consider yourself a religious man?
Yes, I am a religious man, but a religious man very, very in the sense of our Catholics in the 16th century. We know very well this, the thinking of these Catholics, but they were very open in some questions. For example, they say that the moral is always the natural moral, but not a moral specifically religious. And this is, I think, a very modern question, but this question was said in the 16th century.
So values in the 16th century were more important than like a religious doctrine. The religion has come in more, interfering more, you're saying?
Yes, and it is very important that in the schools, for example, the Catholic parents must have more knowing of this question, because it is very important not to last the time in some questions that are not important.
Right. Let me put to you a quote from one of the bishops. During a rally here in Madrid, there were some very tough words from the church. And Cardinal Antonio Canizares of Toledo said that the government was, quote, shaking the foundations of the family with its wicked and unjust laws. So when a cardinal makes a statement like this about the government, how do you think this resonates? How do you think the people of Spain relate to this statement?
I think that he is not a popular bishop. I know very well him. Some years ago, he was the dirigent of the catechetical instruction, and he was very, very open. And he invited me to give some conferences in the seminaries, for example. And now he sees me with a diabolic person. And I say the same things that I said before, some years ago.
There is one other quote I'd like to put to you from another cardinal, Cardinal Agustin García Gasco of Valencia, who was also very harsh when he said, "The culture of radical secularism is a fraud which only leads to abortions and fast-track divorces." So he's saying this freedom of mixing only leads to more people divorcing and more people taking abortions.
This bishop is another bishop that has changed, because I knew him when he was named the secretary of the Conference of the Bishops. And he invited me to have a lunch with him and to speak about some things. And he said something very, very important and curious. He said, I am named the secretary of the conference. You must be the secretary of me.
So he wanted you to be his secretary.
But this is an idea, but not a reality.
Why do you think bishops like these two bishops have changed their views and become more hardline?
I think it is important that the president of the Conference of the Bishops, the past president, is an expert in canonical right, not in theology. And this is very, very important, because he has no a broad mind to have a comprehension of these new questions in the new world.
Okay. Well, the government has also been quite strong in its own responses to the bishops and the cardinals. We had a quote from Deputy Prime Minister Maria Teresa Fernandez de la Vega, and she told a parliamentary commission on the church-state issue, she said, "Society is not ready to go back to a time when a single moral standard was imposed on all Spaniards." Has there been a time in recent years that you can remember where the view of the church changed, where you could see the church took a different direction?
Well, I think that I know Maria Teresa because I was the president of the protection of minors. She was in the Ministry of Justice as a secretary, and he speaks very, very much with her. And I think she has changed very much because she was a very open person then, and now has a very ambiguous position, not a clear position, right. Very ambiguous position.
Sir, we've got a caller on the line from Iraq. Dan, good to hear from you from Kirkuk. Please give us your question nice and clearly and slowly, please.
Hi. As you mentioned, I've spent the last 2 years as an international development worker in both Baghdad and Kirkuk, and I have spoken with dozens of Iraqis about the indiscriminate violence that's affected them in their lives, and one of the themes that comes out of it is a sense of loss of humanity, both from the victim and the perpetrator. And my question is, what is needed to restore a sense of humanity and hope to a people that have lost this?
I think that the ministers are not prepared for to have some decisions about the new problems in the world. And I think they had not had a right idea about many questions. This is not a question of right or in the contrary sense.
The opposite, yeah.
But it is, I think, they are not well prepared to be ministers. We have no. I think that the period of the Frankism was very important for having some dirigent, political dirigent, not well prepared for to have a solution for the problems in general that in other countries were very natural.
We had a question that came by email from Joanna Hamilton in Siena in Italy. And our viewer Joanna wrote in saying, "The policies of Zapatero's government have freed people from religious oppression in Spain. I wish Italy would follow Spain's example. There is no place for religion in the state." Now, do you feel that there is a comparison that can be made between Spain and Italy?
I think that we are very different of Italian and also of other peoples in Europe, are not so similar than then, because, for example, I have studied very well the bishops in many of these countries, and they have bishops open and bishops that are not open. But in general, the majority are not in bad position. It is a question of discussion then between the bishops. And here in Spain, the discussion between bishops is forbidden. Is forbidden. They do not discuss these questions. They made some declarations, but not a clear idea for resolving the problems of the present.
Now, you've written thousands of articles on religion and society, written more than 20 books now, and it was interesting to hear you told me before the interview, before we came onto the set, that you believe that schools shouldn't teach specific religious principles. They should teach moral values so that all these different communities in a country like Spain can get on.
It is very important, this idea, because in the school, the students must have a preparation for this conviviation, this cooperation, not for having a specific religion or a specific moral, but the moral of the citizen, of the cooperation of the different ideas. Because now in Spain, by the emigration, we have some different persons with different religions. And it is necessary to live in peace with these persons. And the school must prepare this question.
Well, Signor Miret, so many more questions. We thank you so much for coming and speaking with us. An honor to have you on the show. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. On tomorrow's show, we talk to UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on the international body's effort to reduce tensions between Islam and the West. Don't forget, if you have any thoughts or questions, send your emails to riz@aljazeera.net. We'll see you next time. Street Talk is next.